Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
It was 6 o'clock sharp when I lit the grill. Ribeyes had been marinating since morning. The beers were lined up like soldiers in the cooler, and the Bluetooth speaker in the backyard played that same playlist Angela made for our 5th anniversary, Easy Evenings. She'd always roll her eyes at the name but hummed along anyway. The porch light clicked on automatically. Still no sign of her. My name's Ray Danner. I'm 56 years old. I've lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina my whole life. For 18 years, I believed I had a solid marriage. Not flashy, not perfect, just solid. Angela worked the night shift at the county hospital. I managed payroll for a logistics firm. No kids, just the two of us, and a rotation of half-dead houseplants we kept forgetting to water. Our life was predictable in all the right ways. Friday movie marathons, Sunday pancakes, the occasional drive out to Asheville when we felt restless. She worked late sometimes. Said the hospital let her pick up an extra shift whenever she wanted. I never questioned it. Why would I? That night I waited. At 7:30 I texted her, "Food's almost done. You close late again?" No reply. At 8:15 I called, straight to voicemail. The grill hissed low in the background. I cracked open a second beer, then a third. Still no word. I should have been worried. I should have panicked. But that's not how it felt. It just felt weird. Quiet in the wrong way. Not eerie like in a horror movie. Just like something was off and I couldn't figure out what. By 10, I shut the grill off and sat alone on the porch swing. Beer in hand. The smell of charred meat still lingering in the air. Stars came out, one by one. I drank until my head buzzed just enough to forget how quiet the yard was. The same yard where Angela used to fall asleep in that old lawn chair, always claiming the stars looked better when you had a belly full of beer. She didn't come home that night. Didn't come home the next morning either. I called the hospital. They said she hadn't picked up any shifts in over a week. Her car was gone. Her locker at the hospital was empty. I found her toothbrush still wet, her mug still sitting in the dishwasher. But everything else, her clothes, her nursing badges, her laptop, vanished. That was when I finally understood. Angela hadn't just stayed late. She hadn't worked a double. She was gone. But not in the way people vanish after a breakup or walk out in a fight. No. Angela had been gone for years. I just hadn't noticed. That night on the porch was the last peaceful night I'd know. Because the life I thought I was living, it was a lie, a comfortable one, but a lie all the same. The day of the funeral was gray, like the sky knew what had happened and didn't feel like putting on a show. I wore the suit Angela always said made me look like I had my life together, black with a subtle gray pinstripe. She picked it out for a wedding we never went to. The chapel was packed, people crying like they'd lost a sister, a best friend, a soulmate. I stood there, nodding, shaking hands, saying the same empty line, "Thank you for coming," over and over until it didn't mean anything. Some folks I recognized from the hospital, a few neighbors, but most were strangers. One woman hugged me so hard I thought she was going to crack my ribs. She kept sobbing into my shoulder like we'd known each other forever. I didn't even know her name. Angela's casket was white with silver handles, too shiny, too polished, like it belonged to someone who'd lived a clean, perfect life. But that wasn't my Angela. And deep down, I was starting to wonder if I ever really knew her at all. I spotted Dana as soon as she walked in, head to toe in black, veil and everything. She wore Angela's favorite perfume, some musky thing with notes of vanilla and regret. It hit me like a slap as she moved through the crowd like a woman with a purpose. She hugged me at the end of the service, lips near my ear. "You doing okay?" she asked. I didn't answer. Back at the house, the place filled up fast. The casseroles came in waves. People set dishes on every surface. Cheesy potatoes, baked ziti, something that might have been tuna under a mountain of crushed chips. I didn't touch any of it. I stood in the kitchen, holding a warm beer and watching people pretend to grieve. Dana let herself in through the side door like she owned the place. She had a bottle of Woodford in one hand, 2 glasses in the other. "You looked like you could use something stronger," she said, setting everything on the counter. I didn't argue. She poured the bourbon, slid a glass toward me, and leaned on the island like she belonged there. You holding up? No one really cares how I'm holding up, I said, staring into the glass. They're just here to say they came. Dana gave a slow nod, then looked at me with this weird mix of pity and smugness. I'm just here to get straight on the 14 grand Angie loaned me. I blinked. What? She sipped her drink, not breaking eye contact. 14,000. She gave it to me over the last year. Said it was for medical stuff, but it really went to the down payment on the condo. I just stared at her. Angela never mentioned any of that. Dana tilted her head, like she was studying me. Guess she didn't tell you everything. Something cracked inside me then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet, clean snap, like a bone giving up under pressure. Dana stayed a while longer, talking like we were old friends. I don't remember most of what she said. I just remember the way she kept touching things. Angela's mug, the edge of the fridge magnets, the little ceramic turtle on the windowsill, like she was trying to mark her territory. When she finally left, I didn't sit down. I started pacing. Through the kitchen, down the hall, into the den, back through the living room. Over and over. I don't know how many laps I made, but I couldn't stop moving. It felt like if I stopped, everything would catch up and bury me. Around 3 a.m, I ended up in the back bedroom. Angela used it as a kind of hobby room, scrapbooking, puzzles, stuff like that. She always said it helped her unwind. I opened the bottom drawer of the old desk she kept in there. Mostly junk. Old tax forms, a broken stapler, a couple photo negatives, and one small brass key. It was heavy in my hand. The kind of key you see in antique stores, or in old movies when someone's about to open a secret passage. There was a worn tag tied to it with thin string. Faded blue ink, just a single W. My chest tightened. Angela had given me that key years ago. Said, it's for a storage unit. Just some old work stuff. Don't worry about it. I never thought twice about it. Threw it in a drawer and forgot it existed. But now, with her gone, the lies piling up like dirty laundry, I held that key in my hand for a long time, just standing there in the quiet of that back room. The house didn't have answers, but maybe that key did. I drove out to the address on a Saturday morning, the kind of morning that pretends to be peaceful. Sunlight bleeding through low clouds, birds chirping like nothing was wrong. The warehouse was part of a half-dead industrial park on the edge of town, the kind of place where you'd expect to find broken forklifts and forgotten vending machines, not whatever this was. Angela had called it her studio. I remember that word exactly because it always made me picture art supplies and quiet music. I thought it was harmless, thought it was her version of a man cave, somewhere to breathe. I parked in front of the unit marked 47C, faded blue paint, metal door, weeds creeping up through cracked pavement. The key felt cold in my palm as I slid it into the lock. It turned with a groan that echoed down the row of empty buildings. When the door rolled up, the smell hit first, like stale cologne, dust, and something vaguely rotten underneath. My stomach turned. I stepped inside anyway. It wasn't an office. It damn sure wasn't storage. It was a shrine. Photos lined the walls, hundreds of them, pinned and taped and tacked with methodical precision. Not framed, not organized, just stuck up there like someone had been racing against time. Maps, too. Scribbled notes in Angela's handwriting. Ticket stubs, receipts, postcards, napkins with phone numbers. My breath caught. Angela was in every picture, but not the version I knew, the neat-haired scrubs and coffee nurse I came home to. No. This Angela wore tank tops and cut-off shorts, big sunglasses, wild hair. She looked younger somehow, freer. And beside her, always, was the same man. Tall, stocky, dirty blonde. Beard in most of the shots, sometimes wearing a ball cap, sometimes not. Sometimes he had his arm around her waist like it belonged there. Sometimes they were just looking at each other, laughing, like the rest of the world didn't matter. A few photos had dates scribbled in pen. One caught my eye, tacked near the center of a corkboard. Angela and the man again, this time with a teenager between them. A lanky boy with a cautious smile and eyes I'd seen in my own mirror for nearly 2 decades. She wrote on the back of that one, in her crooked cursive, "Me, Matt, and Evan, July 2024. Evan." I stared at the kid's face, the brown eyes, the slight dimple in the left cheek, the way he slouched a little like he was trying not to take up space. Angela had no children. That's what I'd always believed. That's what she'd always said. I dropped into the only chair in the room. It was an old rolling office chair with cracked vinyl. I sat there staring at the wall like it might explain itself. It didn't. After a while, I started going through the drawers in the little metal filing cabinet. Most of it was just junk. More receipts, burned CDs, old notepads with her handwriting slanting sideways. But in the bottom drawer, tucked under a manila folder labeled S Plans, I found it. A medical report. Folded. Slightly stained like it had been handled too many times. My name wasn't on it. Neither was Matt's. Just Angela's. I skimmed the top line. Stage 4. Glioblastoma multiforme. Inoperable. I didn't need a doctor to tell me what that meant. She'd known. She'd known she was dying. I sat back in the chair, report in my lap, hands trembling. I read the rest. Dates, tests, treatment options she never told me about. The first consult had been over 9 months ago. While I was planning a weekend trip to Asheville, she was quietly managing her own exit. No wonder she hadn't come home that night. She'd already made her choice. She was building something without me. There was a Polaroid wedged under a paperweight near the desk. Angela and Evan sitting on the hood of an old Jeep. She was smiling with her whole face. He had her chin. I don't know how long I stayed there. Might have been 20 minutes. Might have been 2 hours. Eventually, I stood up and grabbed the file with the medical report. I took the Polaroid too. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because I needed proof that this wasn't just a dream. That the life I thought I had wasn't just quietly rotting behind a locked metal door all this time. Back at my truck, I sat with the door open, feet on the pavement, head spinning. Angela had a son. Angela had a life. And she'd chosen not to share it with me. That should have hurt more than it did. But what I felt wasn't pain, not at first. It was a numb, slow realization settling in. I'd only known half the woman I married, and now the other half was demanding to be found. It was just after 8 when I heard the knock, not on the front door, but the side one, the one that led into the garage where I spent most mornings tinkering, drinking coffee too slowly, avoiding the parts of the house that still smelled like her. I opened the door, expecting a delivery guy or maybe a neighbor with a favor. But it was a kid, tall and wiry, with dark eyes too serious for his age and a jawline I recognized now without needing to guess. "You're Ray?" he asked, voice calm, almost rehearsed. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Can I help you?" "I'm Evan." The name landed like a punch. I stared at him, unsure what to say, what to feel. He didn't wait for an invite, just stepped inside like he'd done it 100 times before. His sneakers squeaked on the concrete floor. He glanced around like he was taking inventory of the space, the tools, the dust. "She told me about you," he said. I just blinked. "Who?" "Angela, my mom." I leaned against the workbench, trying to wrap my head around it. He didn't look nervous. If anything, he looked tired. Like he'd already had this conversation in his head 100 different ways. "She said you were her safety," he went on, eyes still scanning the room. "Matt was her freedom." I didn't speak, couldn't. I just kept staring, waiting for my brain to catch up. "She didn't lie to me," he said, finally looking at me. "She told me she had 2 lives, and she tried her best to keep them separate." I swallowed. "I guess she did a pretty good job. She said it wasn't about not loving you, just needing both halves." He pulled something from his backpack and held it out to me. A torn envelope, yellowed at the edges. My name scrawled on the front in her handwriting. Inside was a folded sheet of thick paper. Legal paper. The will. Dated 3 weeks before she died. I unfolded it slowly. Read each line, even though my hands were shaking. Everything was split. Half to Evan, half to me. No explanations. No apologies. Near the bottom, There was a single line, separate from the rest, in her script. The code to the safety file is tied to what I gave Ray last Christmas. I stared at the sentence, heart pounding. What she gave you? Evan asked. Do you know what that means? Last Christmas had been quiet. Just the two of us at home, steaks on the grill in December because the weather was freakishly warm. No tree, just a few lights around the mantel. She handed me a small box, said, "It's nothing fancy, just something I wanted you to have." It was a gold chain. Simple. No pendant. No note. I'd worn it a few times out of habit, then left it in the top drawer of my dresser. Thought it was sentimental, maybe a nod to something I'd once mentioned. My stomach twisted. "It's not just a chain," I muttered. Evan nodded like he already knew. She said the chain mattered, that it wasn't what it looked like. I walked back inside, Evan trailing behind me, up the stairs, down the hall, into the bedroom that didn't feel like mine anymore. I opened the drawer and pulled it out. It looked the same, smooth gold, slightly warm from the sunlight creeping through the blinds, but near the clasp, there was a tiny notch, barely noticeable. I pressed it, and a piece slid back, revealing a narrow metallic strip, like a chip. My mouth went dry. "It's a key," I said, mostly to myself. Evan stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "So, what now?" I looked at him, really looked at him. His posture, the way he didn't fidget, didn't break eye contact. He was holding something heavy too. Maybe not grief exactly, but something close. "You look like her," I said quietly. He didn't smile. "I hear that a lot." I slipped the chain into my pocket. "Now," I said, "we find out what she thought was worth hiding this deep." Neither of us said anything else, but for the first time in days, I felt something like direction. And whatever came next, I wasn't going alone. The building didn't look like much from the outside. Just a glass and steel box tucked between a vape shop and a failing yoga studio downtown. Angela called it her consulting space, and I'd never thought twice about it. Just assumed it was full of whiteboards, awkward chairs, and those mini fridges that only hold sparkling water. But pulling up next to it with Evan in the passenger seat, that word took on a whole different weight. The electronic gate buzzed open when Evan swiped the key card. His name, Evan Hall, was listed right under Angela's on the tenant board in the lobby. Co-owner. Lease signed 2 years ago. She'd built a second life, all right. And she'd put his name on the door. I didn't know whether to be mad or impressed. The elevator opened to the 3rd floor, and we stepped into a spotless office, too clean. Everything was sterile. Bright white walls, no pictures, no personal touches. Just 3 desks with sleek monitors, a few locked cabinets, and a coffee maker that probably cost more than my truck. I checked the drawers at the main desk. No wedding ring, no photos, not even a damn sticky note with my name on it. "Was she ever here when you were around?" I asked Evan. He shook his head. "She kept this place separate. Said it was for stuff she couldn't talk about." That tracked. In the corner of the back room was a utility panel. Looked like a breaker box, except it was a fake. Plastic shell, magnetic hinges. Behind it, a smooth steel face with a slot near the bottom. I took out the chain and slid the clasp chip into the reader. It whirred, clicked. Then the panel slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a small black safe, already unlocked. We pulled it open together, like we were disarming a bomb. 2 passports, one in the name Angela Danner, the other in the name Elena Wyatt. Both had her photo, slightly different hairstyles, different smiles, but definitely her. There was a flash drive in a slim metal case, a manila folder thick with offshore banking info. Some of the accounts were in her name. Some were in mine. "How the hell?" I muttered. Evan reached in and pulled out a stack of contracts, NDAs, each signed by Angela, each marked with the same company name at the top, Westward Holdings. I'd never heard of them, but the signatures looked legit. The money transfers listed on the side weren't small, and at the very bottom of the safe, underneath the folders, was a handwritten note in her sharp, unmistakable scrawl. "If this safe is opened, contact Martin Rice. He knows what to do." "Martin Rice?" Evan asked. I shrugged. "Not someone I've ever met." He handed me the flash drive. I turned it over in my hand. No label. No markings. Just a faint fingerprint smudge that made my stomach twist. We plugged it into one of the office computers. It took a second to load. Just one file, a video. Titled, Ray. I didn't breathe as I clicked it open. Angela appeared on the screen. No makeup, hair in a low bun, sitting in what looked like this exact office, though the furniture was different. Her eyes were tired but steady. She didn't smile. "Ray," she said, "if you're watching this, then I'm gone." My throat tightened. There's a lot I can't explain here. Things I was part of. Things I signed away pieces of myself for. But you deserve the truth. Or at least the part I can give you. She paused. Looked off screen for a second like she was gathering herself. "I loved you. In the truest way I knew how. You were my peace. You were my home. But I wasn't built for just one life. I think you knew that. Deep down." She reached forward, adjusting the camera slightly. Her eyes locked into the lens. "Protect Evan. No matter what you find next, no matter what anyone tells you, protect him." She hesitated again. "And Ray. Trust no one." Another beat. "Not even Dana." The screen went black. I just sat there, staring. "Not even Dana?" I whispered, like maybe I heard it wrong. Evan stood beside me, fists clenched. "What does that mean?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. My mind was already racing. Dana, smirking in my kitchen, wearing Angela's perfume, asking about money like she had a right to it. Pieces started shifting into place. I pulled the flash drive out and slipped it into my pocket. "We're not done," I said, standing. "Not even close." Evan looked like he wanted to ask 100 questions. But he didn't. He just followed me out the door, silent as a shadow. Angela had left behind a roadmap, and now that I had it, I was going to find out where it led, even if it meant burning a few bridges on the way. I didn't knock. I wasn't in the mood to play polite. I just hit the buzzer until the lock clicked, then took the stairs 2 at a time to Dana's third-floor condo. I'd barely slept the night before. Angela's voice from the video kept running through my head like a bad song. "Not even Dana." She answered the door barefoot, one sock dangling off her foot, Angela's old Carolina hoodie swallowing her frame, the one with the frayed cuffs Angela used to wear when she baked. I stared at it like it was a ghost. "Come to see what she left me?" Dana said, leaning on the doorframe like this was some game she was winning. Her eyes were glassy, maybe from sleep, maybe something stronger. "Cut the crap," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "You were sleeping with her." She blinked once. No shock, no protest. Then she shrugged, like I'd just told her it was supposed to rain tomorrow. "What did you expect, Ray?" she said, stepping back to let me in. "You married a woman who couldn't sit still. I was always there. You were always busy." I stepped inside without asking. The air smelled like lavender oil and old takeout. The living room was cluttered, magazines, a half-folded blanket, 2 coffee mugs. But it was what sat on the shelf above the TV that stopped me cold. A framed photo of Angela and Dana at a beach resort, frozen drinks in hand, matching sunglasses. Angela's head resting on Dana's shoulder like they were in a damn engagement shoot. I turned and scanned the room. More photos. Angela and Dana at dinner. Angela and Dana hiking. One with Angela standing barefoot in a kitchen I didn't recognize, grinning while Dana kissed her cheek. Double shifts my ass. "And the baby?" I asked, my voice low. Dana's smug look cracked for just a second. She wrapped her arms around herself like she was cold, even though the room was warm. "It's not yours," she said, not even trying to ease into it. "It's hers. And Matt's. IVF. I carried it for them." I stared at her, tried to find something to say, but nothing came. My brain just flatlined. "You're telling me you were the surrogate," I finally said, "for Angela, and the guy from the photos, From the warehouse. Matt, she said softly. Yeah. You carried their child. She nodded. A new family, I said. Dana didn't argue, didn't deny it. She just walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine. Midday, like it was juice. She was leaving, she said, sipping. Not right away, but eventually. They were going to move. Somewhere quiet. She just needed a little more time to untangle things with you. You mean erase me? She winced, just barely. She said she wanted to do it clean. Said she owed you that much. I stepped closer, my hands shaking now. So what was I? A placeholder? A backup plan if the dream didn't pan out? Dana didn't answer. That money, I said, eyes narrowing. The 14 grand. That wasn't a loan. That was your payment, wasn't it? For carrying the baby. She took another sip. There was a lot going on. You don't get it. No, I said. You're right. I don't. Because while I was out here building a life with her, you two were in the background stitching together something new and cutting me out of it piece by piece. Dana finally set her glass down. We didn't want to hurt you. I laughed, a short, bitter bark. Then you should have stayed out of my goddamn house. Her face twisted at that, and something flared behind her eyes. Defensiveness, anger, guilt, maybe all three. She was the one torn, Ray, she snapped. She loved you. She loved Matt. She loved me. She tried to make space for everyone, and guess what? That crushed her, and in the end, it didn't save her either. I took a deep breath, tried to steady the thudding in my chest. You used her, I said. You helped her keep secrets. You helped build this whole lie. She crossed her arms. You really think you were the victim in all this? I didn't answer, because deep down, I wasn't sure I was. Not completely, but I was definitely the last obstacle in their plan. And now? They didn't need me anymore. The diner was just outside Greensboro, one of those places where the booths had torn vinyl and the waitresses still called you Han, without meaning anything by it. I sat near the window with a bad cup of coffee going cold in front of me. Martin Rice walked in like a man who'd never once needed to hurry. Tall, silver-haired, gray suit without a single wrinkle. If you saw him in line at a grocery store, you'd assume he was a retired dentist. But there was something behind his eyes that said he could make you disappear and still be home in time for Jeopardy. He slid into the booth across from me. No handshake, no small talk, just pulled a manila envelope from his briefcase and placed it on the table between us. I'm only meeting you because Angela asked me to, he said. She paid for discretion, and I gave it to her. But now that she's gone, that deal's over. I stared at the envelope. My name was written across the front in clean block letters. What's in it? Evidence, he said, without blinking. Shell corporations, wire transfers, property held under aliases. She was more than clever. She was careful. But not careful enough. Your name shows up as secondary or emergency contact on a lot of it. My throat went dry. I didn't sign anything. You didn't have to, he said, opening the envelope. All she needed was your ID, a signature or two from a bank years ago. Everything else was forged. Sloppy in spots, but effective. He slid the papers toward me. Fake passports, one with my photo, under a name I'd never heard of. Wire transfers out of the country. Bank accounts opened in Belize, Cyprus, Panama, every one of them tied, somehow, to Angela and to me. They were building an exit plan, he said. Clean identities, untraceable money. If anything went sideways, you were going to be the one left behind to take the hit. And who's they? I asked. Just Angela and Matt? Angela and someone named Dana helped manage the stateside accounts. Matt handled the offshore ones. Westward Holdings funded most of it. Private equity firm, but a shady one. Rumors of intelligence ties, asset laundering, private surveillance. Why would they need me? Martin looked me square in the eye. Because fall guys don't ask questions. You were perfect. Clean record, loyal, legally tied to her. If the feds ever came sniffing, they'd see your name before anyone else's. I sat back, staring at the documents. My whole life had been folded into hers like a hidden clause. 18 years of marriage, and I'd been blind to the fact that I was just another piece of the structure she'd built. I left the diner with the files in my passenger seat, my hands shaking on the wheel. Drove straight to my old military buddy, Jude Martin, who'd gone from courtroom to quiet law office after 20 years as a JAG officer. He didn't ask questions, just copied everything, printed backup sets, and locked one in a fireproof box with a thumb drive sealed inside. "One goes to Atlanta," he said, "just in case someone tries to get cute." I nodded. "If anything happens to me, open it. Give it to the feds." He didn't blink. "Done." I was halfway back home when Dana called. I let it ring twice, then answered. "Let's talk," she said, like she was inviting me to lunch. I didn't respond right away. "I know you found everything," she added. "Angela's office, the safe, the contracts." Her voice wasn't nervous. It was smug. Like she thought she still had leverage. Like the game was still hers to play. "What exactly do you think I found?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. "Oh, come on," she said, amused. "Don't play coy. You're not built for cloak and dagger, Ray. You're the guy who grills on Sundays and forgets his passwords." I said nothing. She took that as a cue to keep going. "Look, this doesn't have to get messy," she said. "Angela's gone. The money's real. We can work something out." That's when it hit me. She didn't know about the flash drive. Angela's voice. The warning. "Trust no one, not even Dana." "Yeah," I said slowly. "Maybe we should talk." And in that moment, I wasn't afraid anymore. I had something they didn't know existed. We met at a little brunch place off Battleground Avenue, the kind that served mimosas in mason jars and had chalkboard menus filled with overpriced avocado toast. Dana was already at the table when I walked in. Oversized sunglasses, fresh blowout, sipping a lavender latte like we were just two people catching up. I slid into the booth across from her and didn't bother with hello, just placed a small flash drive on the table between us. "What's that?" she asked, tilting her head like she already knew. "A copy," I said. "Play it at home. You'll want privacy." She blinked, slowly, then leaned back with a half smile. "You think this changes anything?" "It changes everything," I said. "Because I'm not going to court. I'm not suing you. Not filing a claim. I'm not interested in dragging this into headlines." She narrowed her eyes. "So what then? You want money?" I shook my head. "I want you to live with it." She scoffed. "Live with what exactly?" "That I let you walk away," I said, calm as I'd ever been. "Not because I was weak, but because I'm done. With you. With her. With all of it." For a split second, something broke across her face, something unsure. But she buried it quick, behind another sip of her latte, and a tight smile. "You think you're the bigger person?" she said. "No," I said. "Just the last one standing." I got up without finishing my coffee, slid a 20 under the salt shaker, even though I didn't owe her a damn thing. Outside, the heat hit like a wall. Evan was sitting in the passenger seat of my truck, earbuds in, foot propped on the dash. He looked up when I opened the door but didn't ask. Didn't have to. We drove in silence most of the way home, windows down, the air loud enough to fill the gaps in conversation. That night, after dinner, I was watching an old Western on mute, sipping a beer on the porch, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. "Mr. Danner," a deep voice said, calm, measured. "My name is Barrett West. Angela and I had business. I believe you now have my files." I didn't say anything at first, just let the name settle. "I'd like to talk," he said. "What kind of talk?" "The kind that prevents problems," he said, "and offers solutions." "You threatening me?" "No," he said. "I'm offering you clarity." Angela kept detailed records. Some of those records implicate people who don't appreciate being mentioned. If they were to be shared, things would become complicated. For everyone. I stood up, walked to the edge of the porch. The night was thick and quiet. A neighbor's dog barked twice, then stopped. You involved in Westward Holdings? I asked. There was a pause. I am Westward Holdings, he said. Of course he was. What do you want from me? I asked. Just your cooperation, he said smoothly. You don't need to release anything. You don't need to call anyone. Let sleeping dogs lie. Keep your peace, that's all I'm asking. And if I don't? Another pause. Then we have a different conversation. One I'd rather not have. I thought about the flash drives. One with Jude in Atlanta, one mailed to Angela's old supervisor, one tucked inside a safe deposit box I'd opened under Evan's name. Insurance. Where do you want to meet? I asked. No meetings, he said. Not yet. I just wanted to introduce myself. He hung up. I stood there for a long while after, phone still in my hand, beer gone warm on the porch rail. Evan came out eventually, leaning against the post next to me. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, just ghosts. He didn't push. He never did. I looked over at him. This kid who didn't ask to be part of any of this, who lost a mom he barely had and got stuck with a man who didn't know what to do with his own grief. We're going to figure this out, I said. Okay, he said quietly, and somehow that one word felt steadier than anything else had in months. Barrett chose the spot. Of course he did. An office complex in Durham, slick, modern, half empty. The kind of place where every inch was watched by some camera in a tinted dome. The parking lot looked spotless. No trash, no strays. Just BMWs and black Escalades lined up like soldiers. I parked in the visitor section. No one approached me. No one needed to. Barrett was already inside, waiting in the atrium. Navy suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked like a man who never lost sleep, or maybe didn't sleep at all. We didn't shake hands. This okay? He asked, gesturing to the bench near the indoor fountain. The water trickled just loud enough to make you lean in to hear. Perfect for quiet conversations. Yeah, I said. Let's get it over with. He sat, hands folded neatly on his lap. No folder, no laptop. Just him. You're not the kind of man I expected, he said calmly. I get that a lot. He glanced at me, expression unreadable. I'm not here to make threats. Good, I said, because I'm not in the mood to hear them. Barrett smiled, just barely. I came to offer peace. Stay out of the documents. Don't open anything further. Don't pursue what Angela left behind. And I'll forget your name. I stared at him, then reached into my jacket and pulled out a slip of paper. I slid it across the bench. You're too late, I said. Your name's already on everything. So is mine. You want to bury this? You're going to have to dig through both of us. He didn't flinch, just looked at the paper, a list of the safe locations, the flash drive backups, and the names of the recipients. One's with my lawyer, I said. One with the kid, one's sitting on the desk of Angela's old supervisor, all with the same instructions. And those instructions are? If anything happens to me or Evan, release everything. He didn't respond right away, just sat back and exhaled like a man doing mental math on how bad the fallout could be. I don't want revenge, I said. I want out. Barrett nodded slowly. Fair enough. He stood, adjusted his cuffs like this was just another Monday. You'll hear from me again, or you won't. Depends how well you stay quiet. Same goes for you, I said. He walked off without another word, and I didn't look back. Later that night, after Evan went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with the last flash drive, the one I hadn't opened yet, the one that came with the second key, tucked deep in the lining of the warehouse drawer behind a false panel. It had one file, no label, just a video. Time stamped 2 days before Angela collapsed. She was sitting in the same chair, in the same office. No makeup. Gray creeping into her hair. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice didn't. If you're watching this, she said, then everything else is already in motion. She paused, swallowed hard. I need you to know what Dana did. My stomach turned. She told me she wanted a child, said she'd carry it, said she wanted to help. But it was never about helping. She was always jealous, always pushing, always watching. Angela looked down, then back at the camera. Last year, when Isabel died, that wasn't an accident. Dana cut the brake line. She thought it was my car. She was angry I was leaving. Angry I was still with Matt. I blinked, stunned. Isabel had been Dana's ex. They shared custody of a dog, for God's sake. The crash was ruled mechanical failure. Nothing more. She confessed to me later, Angela said. Said she was sorry. Said she just wanted things clean. No loose ends. Her eyes welled, but she didn't cry. I should have turned her in, but I didn't. And now it's too late for justice. She leaned forward. Don't trust her, Ray. Not with Evan. Not with anything. The screen went black. I sat there for a long time, staring at the quiet space around me. Then I grabbed the drive, tucked it into an envelope, and sealed it with tape. One more copy, one more layer of protection. This wasn't about punishment anymore. This was about making sure no one else got caught in Angela's shadow. I didn't tell many people I was leaving. Just listed the house quietly. Sold it to a couple from Winston-Salem who were excited about the backyard and didn't ask many questions. I packed one bag, some clothes, a few tools. The photo of my parents I kept in the back of a drawer. Everything else stayed behind. Furniture, dishes, memories. Let it all belong to someone else now. The place I found outside Fort Collins wasn't much. Small rental cabin tucked near a ridge, gravel drive, no mailbox. The kind of place where you could hear the wind at night and nothing else. It suited me just fine. I gave Evan the passwords before I left, sat with him at the kitchen table and wrote them down slowly, making sure he understood what they were. These accounts are yours now, I said. Angela left them for you. Maybe not in the right way, but they're yours. Do what you want with them. He looked at the paper, then at me. Why are you giving them to me? Because you're her son, I said. But you don't have to carry her choices. That part stops here. He nodded, but I could tell it was still heavy on him. He didn't ask if I'd be coming back. And I didn't promise that I would. You can visit any time, I told him. I mean that. He didn't say anything right away. Just reached out and gave me a quick hug. Awkward, unsure, but real. I held on longer than he did. Dana called once. A number I recognized instantly. I watched it ring 3 times, then hit decline. No voicemail, no follow-up, just silence, and I let it stay that way. I never fully forgave Angela. Some things you don't wrap up with a neat bow, but I let her go. Let the lies go. Let the ache in my chest soften until it was just a quiet bruise I carried with me. Some nights it still throbbed, especially when I thought about the years I spent building a life that turned out to be someone else's blueprint. But this time, the life I was building didn't have secret compartments. The cabin had 1 door, 2 windows, no attic, no basement, no room for hiding things, and I liked it that way. I chopped my own firewood, cooked what I felt like eating, started reading again. Nothing heavy, just old westerns and dog-eared mystery paperbacks from the thrift store in town. I still wore the gold chain. Not for her, for me. It wasn't about the symbol anymore. It was a reminder. Trust is earned, not given. And next time someone wanted a piece of my life, they were going to have to earn their way in, every inch of it.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.